This is the Gutsy Health Podcast with Juanique and Tristin. Welcome back to the Gutsy Health Podcast.
Hi, everybody. This episode is a little bit different from our usual format because this was actually a part of a summit that we are participating in called the Healthy Holidays Summit. And the idea behind this whole thing is to help people get through the holidays in a way that keeps them eating relatively healthy and taking care of their bodies with exercise so that you can get to the end of the holiday season feeling proud of yourself, being really glad about how you did it, and then hitting 2021 really strong so that you can reach your goals that much faster. And what we are going to talk about in this episode is gut health during the holidays and different ways that you can make sure your gut health stays strong and that you have a better experience during all the holiday meals that you'll be participating in.
Exactly. So it's not a cut out all the joy in your holidays. It's more of a, hey, how do we make it so that you are still having fun but taking care of yourself? So we hope you enjoy the episode. And if you want more information on this health summit,
it'll be starting on November 17th. And we will be putting more details in the show notes so that you can sign up and hear all of the other really great speakers talking about their subjects as well.
So there you go. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Bye-bye.
What's going on, everyone? Andrew Colombini here. Welcome back to Healthy Holidays Online Summit. The intention of this summit is to support you in making healthy, conscious food decisions, maybe even preparing some healthy meals and getting that exercise in such that you hit the end of year goals for yourself and really are set up to have the healthiest year ever in 2021. So today we have a very special guest with us. We have Juanique, excuse me, I got that. And Tristin, Ronnie, how you guys doing?
We're doing good. Hi. Thanks for having us. We're so excited.
Of course. Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on. And for those of you that are watching that don't know these two wonderful individuals, they are reborn. It's a little bio intro about them. They are reborn by fire when Tristin was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer in 2016. After their medical providers threw in the towel, they're forced to take a deep dive into the research on alternative approaches to healing. This is the alternative medicine, you guys. This ultimately led them to the creation of a health clinic called Provo Health, a consultation practice, and a lifestyle transformation program now known as Gutsy Health. You can check them out on Instagram. All the links down below, you can check them out as well. In the years since, they have become deeply familiar with the healing process, including the importance of a strong gut health to a healthy disease-free body. They educate everyone who's ready to learn about the step-by-step process to complete wellness, including the physical, mental, and spiritual developments. Juanique and Tristin have a podcast called Gutsy Health, where they discuss different health topics each week, which can be found at the links below. Welcome, you guys. I'm super excited to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you. And I do want to mention, and I hope I don't make us cry, but today is actually the 4-year anniversary of Tristin's, of his diagnosis.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a big day. Like
I forgot that.
Oh my God.
Then I should have reminded you. I'm so sorry.
No, it's not a bad thing.
It was a very traumatic day. So, but yeah, today's the day, 4 years, November 2nd.
Exactly,
so.
to the day.
Yeah.
So what was that? It was really interesting because we were at the same hospital. I was getting my 20-week ultrasound, and then I went 3 floors up to pick him up from his colonoscopy. And I thought like the worst news of my day would be, oh, something's wrong with my baby. But I realized, nope, something's wrong with my husband. So it was a really strange day, but it was a day that pivoted us in a way that our lives changed forever. And we're very grateful for it.
Yeah. Honestly, Andrew, maybe the best thing that ever happened to us, because it set us on this journey to really discovering what true health is and living a life that is really meaningful and purposeful. So a lot of good things have come from it, even though it was a really traumatic experience.
Well, I really acknowledge you for sharing that and being vulnerable and using these. They say the successful people use the bricks that life throw at them to build their palace.
For sure.
And, you saw this as an opportunity to take that next level up. And I mean, I'm sure there's so many people that you've supported along this journey. And it just took that courage and that belief and the faith that you'd get through this and you'd find a solution. And there you go. You found it.
Yeah.
We're here, we're talking, we're chatting.
It took a lot of like a lot of doctors burning us too. I do want to acknowledge that because not all doctors are bad, but a lot of people feel the gaslighting in the medical circles. And so one of my missions is to help people recognize that and help them give themselves permission to fire their bad doctors, because there are better ones out there. Now, we are not doctors, we're health consultants. So don't replace us with your doctors, but we can work with people alongside their doctors too. And so if you or any listeners out there have dealt with bad doctors that are not listening to them and they won't recognize what you're trying to say or tell them, you give yourself permission to find someone that will, because they exist.
Absolutely. Yeah, you know, and just to add on top of that, I mean, I would say we are the doctors of the future. And the reason why is because we have pure intention.
Yes,
there's no like insurance or any other thing that we're getting paid extra for. It's like we're in this to win it. And especially most of us have had some kind of healing crisis or health crisis.
Absolutely.
And found out, okay, this is not working. So how do we work through this and move through it?
Right. Exactly.
So again, thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here. I'm super excited to dive in. And you guys, today we're talking about gut health during the holidays.
Yeah.
And I've heard, maybe you have as well, gut health is the second brain of the body. Maybe you can even dive into that as well. But why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about the context of the work that you do, and then we can dive right in.
I want to add to that. The gut is the second brain. Actually, evolutionarily speaking, it was the first brain. And so the gut led to the nervous system. And so as we evolved from, really tiny species to more complex species, we first developed a gut, and then we developed a nervous system, which turned into the brain. So isn't that cool? It was the original brains. But yeah, you want to go ahead, Tris?
Sure. So what we do now, we are, we deal with all sorts of health conditions with people. We're doing all kinds of stuff, but one of the kind of the core pieces of what we do is helping people to fix their gut. Because what we've found and what we've experienced is that if you don't have a strong gut, if you're not digesting properly, it pretty much doesn't matter what else you do, because you're not absorbing the nutrients you need. You're not getting the building blocks your body needs to heal itself.
I always say you're creating really expensive poop. So if you're not absorbing everything, it's just coming out the other end. And so I always liken it to a tree. Your gut is literally the root system of a tree. You can't buy apples from a second tree and try to put it on your tree. You gotta nurture your root system, and you got to make sure it's a really strong, deeply rooted root system that's getting water and good soil. And then it absorbs through the trunk into the branches. And then you reap the benefits from the fruit that your tree grows. So if your tree is sick, it's probably because the root system is either being strangled or it's not thriving, or it needs some support. So think of your gut like the root system to your tree that just absorbs everything. And that's the number one thing that we really need to nurture if we are going to embark on a healing journey. Because a lot of people, you'll take supplements, but if you're not absorbing those supplements, again, you're just creating expensive urine, expensive poop. So let's make sure your gut is getting every little iota of nutrients that it can.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree 100%. And I think that's that deeper layer that we all get to connect to and acknowledge, like, okay, it's not just what I put down, but there's also these processes and where am I in my healing journey? Where am I at in my process? Because we could both be twins. We both eat whatever, and it's going to digest differently because of the choices that we had made leading up to this point.
Exactly. And, stress is a big part of that as well, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because you're either in fight or flight or rest and digest. And most of us are chronically in fight or flight. And so we can't do fight or flight and rest and digest at the same time. And so we really need to, one, work on healing the gut, but then also healing our mind so that we can get into that rest and digest state where we are producing a lot of digestive enzymes to help us break down our food. It's interesting that you've named this podcast like gut health throughout the holidays. And I find that ironic because gut health without holidays is already bad enough in our society. And so this is like just throwing more gasoline on a fire, because I've done polls on my Instagram group. Now, obviously it's not a true poll because not everyone's voting, but I would say about 85% of my followers all have gut issues. Well, not all of them, because not all of them vote, but the people that do vote, it's always like close to 90%. So many people without holidays, without holiday treats, without all the junk already have gut issues. And so it's like, okay, so how do we slow down this train wreck that's going to happen over the next few months, right?
And that's just the people who know about their gut issues.
Right.
Now, back when I was diagnosed, I really wasn't having gut issues until the end. My health, I thought, was the best it had ever been in my life. I was exercising every day. I was feeling really good. I was sleeping well. And then really the only symptom that I developed, which was the last just few months before I got diagnosed, was that my stools were getting a little bit more frequent and a little bit smaller, right? So I wouldn't have said, oh, I've got gut issues. I had no idea. But when we went in and we finally took a look with the colonoscopy, we saw that not only did I have gut issues, but they were really advanced. So there are people who are dealing with this that may not even realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like I totally can resonate. I mean, I didn't realize that, I guess it's still related to gut health, but I'm very gluten intolerant. Can't eat gluten. I get super bloated. I just can't digest it. And, there's a leaky gut that I've heard of as well. So there's a lot of different things. And that's why I really wanted to presence this, because especially the holidays, like you said, we're already have bad gut health.
Right.
And now we're going to add all this other stuff up, and we want to hit our goals for the next year. So it's like, okay, let's go into battle right now. Let's really get prepared for the holidays. It's going to happen. And we can touch on cause it's also guilt-free. How do we enjoy the holidays still and still be health conscious?
Absolutely.
And so, let's just dive into the questions. Why are the holidays tough on our gut? Maybe you can even say why is it already tough on our gut, period. But
it's interesting that you mentioned gluten, because if there's one thing that tends to be associated with holiday foods, it's gluten, right? It's
bread, it's cakes, it's rolls, it's all of those things. And the reason why it's super hard on our guts is just because of how wheat is manufactured these days. If you guys haven't looked into glyphosate, they actually spray wheat fields, grain fields with glyphosate as a desiccant before they harvest it. And glyphosate is extremely detrimental to gut health. It literally tears apart amino acids in your gut because it actually affects the shikimate pathway. Is that correct? The shikimate pathway, which we as human beings don't have in our cells, but our gut biome does. And so when scientists say, no, it doesn't affect our shikimate pathway because we don't have a shikimate pathway, well, your gut biome does, because your gut biome is a different species. And so everyone knows, scientists have proved this over and over again, 80% of our immune health is actually our gut biome. And so if we are literally destroying our gut biome from this overabundance of glyphosate, that's really detrimental. There's a reason why childhood allergies have tripled since the 90s. And I think it was because in 96, that's when it became in law or something that they started to use glyphosate in mass quantities. The more Roundup, the more glyphosate that they're using, the more we are getting health issues, environmental issues, allergy issues. And again, it all just goes back to gut biome. I also think another reason why the holidays are really hard for us is because food is very emotional. You think of holidays and you think of the smells, right? I mean, everyone has probably been to Disneyland or some kind of theme park, and you remember the fun, but you also remember the smells, like the candy apples and you know what I mean? The cinnamon rolls. And when you go to the movies, you remember popcorn and the smell of butter, right? Yeah. Right?
Milk does.
The milk does. And so the holidays, everyone has that, it's that trigger, right? It's like Pavlov's dogs. And so it's oh, Christmas. And then you think junk food and you associate that with fun and good memories. And so there is a very large emotional component. And so I think when it comes to holidays, we don't want you going from good to best, but we can do a slight nudge from good to better.
Well,
right?
we would love if you went from good to best.
Yeah.
But realistically speaking, if someone tries to do that 9 times out of 10, they're going to make themselves miserable.
Right.
They're going to crash, and they're going to basically have a bender, right? Where they just go totally nuts, and then they undo all the hard work that they did.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And that's the intention of eating guilt-free. If I eat something, it's okay, I'm okay with it. That's okay. But if let's say I'm on a diet, or I don't even like to say the word diet, more lifestyle, but if I eat something and I beat myself up over it, sometimes a coping mechanism is well, I already messed up, so I might as well eat this entire cake.
Exactly.
And that's right there is when it can be a problem, right?
Yes. I think a safe way to enter the holidays is to give ourselves permission to, I'm just going to do one slice of cake. I'm just going to do one thing. And then I'm going to make alternative healthy somethings, because for every unhealthy recipe out there, there's a healthier version of it, right? Just go to Pinterest. I mean, I have my own little holidays treats cookbook that I came out with last year where, we want to enjoy these things. We want to take the traditions from our parents and pass it on to our kids, right? But we can modify it. And so like switching out one for the other is a really great way from going from good to better, right? And then in years' time, you can go from better to best and slowly transform and slowly like comfortable movement in the other direction that serves you and your body, right? But I think giving ourselves, having like an upfront contract with yourself and saying, okay, holidays are hard, and I know this, and I know I have these certain triggers. So write down your triggers and then give yourself permission to say, okay, when this trigger comes to mind, instead of eating 3 pieces of cake, I'm going to eat 1, right? And then I'm going to go for the healthy cookie on the side. Or instead of doing like the chicken with the bread stuffing, I'm going to bring like a gluten-free stuffing, and just modifying things. Another thing to help us get set up for not failing. And I even hate the word failing, right? Because you don't fail. You're always progressing. You're always learning.
Totally.
Right? I mean, I even binge at Christmas because my family is South African, and they, I do fine at Tristan's house because his family has their traditional things. But when I go to my family's house, all the South African treats come out, and I'm like, oh my
stuff
gosh.
That you can't get most of the
that
year,
I can't
right?
get because they're all in South Africa. We have to go to like special stores, and then they're making like milk tot, and they're making all of these wonderful things. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I just got to try it because it brings back so many memories. But, writing down those triggers and giving ourselves permission to say, yes, I'm okay with doing this, and I'm okay with doing that. And then so much self-love and grace is so important here too, right? Like, and the other thing I was going to say is maybe tell your family as well, hey, I have to be gluten-free. Can you guys be supportive of this? Because sometimes there's a lot of shaming, and I don't think people recognize that that's what they're doing. And so it's like, oh, you don't need to be on a diet. And people like that word right there. It's not a diet. It's a lifestyle change, right? A lot of people, they have to change their nutrition because they don't feel good, not because they want to lose weight, right? But immediately when you say, I'm changing my lifestyle, people always think, oh, well, it's trying to lose weight. So maybe just having that upfront contract, not only with yourself, but with your family members, and saying, hey, I've been dealing with some health stuff. Could you all please support me during these holidays? I'm going to bring some healthier meals. If anyone else wants to bring some healthier meals too, that would be really great. I have an entire cookbook of healthy treats and things that we can, and you can create Pinterest boards and all of that stuff that's still yummy and still fun, but supports you and your healing journey as well. So going again from good to better. Don't expect perfection from yourself. It's just baby steps. We have to crawl before we can walk, and we have to walk before we can run. And so just remember that, you guys. If you need to crawl a little longer, that's okay. It's really good to crawl for a long time because that creates really, really good like back muscles and all that jazz. But
to kind of summarize that, there's 2 really important principles that Juanique just talked about. The first one is intentionality, right? It is planning ahead. It is having a very clear game plan before you head into those scenarios where you're more liable to kind of fall off the wagon, so to speak. And then the second one is honesty with yourself and just knowing that you have your limits. You know what's going to push you too far, and setting up some boundaries so that you're less likely to cross those limits. And if you can do those 2 things, you can make it a much more pleasant experience for yourself where you still enjoy yourself. You still get to have fun with your family, with your friends, with whoever you're spending time with, but not in a way that you're going to feel regret later, because that regret is not your friend.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so true, because like the holidays, it's not really the time. I mean, people can do it if you want. It's not really the time to be like super strict and what's the word, neurotic about it. It's like, this is a time to be in acceptance. Yeah, we might eat something we shouldn't. Like you had said before, all the desserts, like my family's Italian, they make the best focaccia bread and prosciutto, and like it's to die for, and it's pure gluten. And like, but there's strategies, right? Like you can buy, I have these gluten intolerant pills, so I can take a few before. So there's a little more enzymes in there that I can digest it and not feel guilty, but feel actually grateful. Like I can enjoy this. I can spend time with my family. And going back to, you know, what you said, Juanique, about having that conversation with our families. It's like, hey, this is important. Oh, you don't need the diet. But maybe if we're intentional and serious, like, listen, like this is important to me. Can we at least modify one meal? Right. And at least doing our part to make that happen. And if we can't do it, we at least tried. And the bigger thing is, what am I creating after? The holidays will be done, right? And when 2021 comes, it doesn't all of a sudden, 2021 and, you know, everything's different. It's like, no, it starts right now. It starts as how we're building. And, you know, what holidays, like a dinner, maybe a couple dinners, right? What are we doing in between?
Exactly.
What I found is, it's holiday mode, right? Let's just kick back. Let's just relax, right? And just kind of all the leftovers. And it's like, but that's the time to like eat those healthier meals, make those decisions, exercise a little bit more. And then come dinner time, okay, I'm giving myself permission to eat what I like for the most part.
I want to share a story. Years ago, I had a mom bring her like 14-year-old daughter into the shop, the clinic. And she said to me, hey, can you tell my daughter to stop eating sugar? And I was like, absolutely not, because I eat sugar. And I said, but here's the thing. Why don't you guys discuss a protocol where when she eats 8 servings of vegetables, then she can have her bowl of ice cream? You know, like get the good stuff in, like you were saying, like whether it's starting every morning with a green smoothie or some vegetable juice and, you know, a really yummy, healthy vegetable salad with like sauteed onions and zucchini and lettuce. And then, you know, from there on, like, then you're going out with family at dinner, but you've already gotten so many fruits and vegetables and a lot of good fiber in. And then, you're taking your enzymes to help you break down the lactase and the gluten. And enzymes are really fantastic and they help a ton with that.
Can we talk about those when you're done?
Yes, absolutely.
That's really important for gut health in general, especially during the holidays.
And so, so let's talk about that right now, actually, like what people can do what are the enzymes that you use? I'm kind of curious, Andrew.
Mitolife, I think I saw it on your website. Matt Blackburn.
Yes, we love his Shilajit.
Gluten, Shilajit's great. Gluten Savior, which I don't believe he has anymore, but I have the other option he recommended.
Awesome.
It works like a charm. I mean, I've eaten pizza and I've eaten some crazy stuff and it works.
Amazing. Yeah, those are some really hard hitter enzymes, especially for the holidays, which we love. Our favorites to help people digest food is like hydrochloric acid, so Zypan.
So actually, there's a really cool process you can do to figure out if that'll be helpful for you or not. And sorry, there's a little chaos in the background here. Our kids and our dog just burst into the room. But so what you can do is, and we do this with literally everyone that we work with, and it's awesome. Very first thing in the morning, before you've had anything else to eat or drink, you want to mix about a half of a teaspoon of baking soda with around 4 ounces of water. Mix it up, drink it down, and then start timing yourself until you burp. And depending on how quickly you burp, we can get a pretty rough idea of your hydrochloric acid sufficiency. So if you burp really quickly within a couple of minutes, that tells us we've got plenty of hydrochloric acid there, because there's this chemical reaction that takes place between the hydrochloric acid and the baking soda, causes a creation of carbon dioxide, and it forces you to burp. But if you don't burp, it's been, 4 or 5 minutes or even longer, good sign that you're low in the hydrochloric acid, and supplementation would be very beneficial for you to help you break down food properly.
Spoiler alert, 9 out of 10 people fail that test. So
what is that?
9 out of 10 people fail that test.
One of the things that depletes hydrochloric acid production in your body is the intake of refined carbohydrates. And that's such an endemic factor. Well, stress is another one. So those two things combined, most of us are really struggling when it comes to hydrochloric acid production. So, and when that does happen, we love a product called Zypan from Standard Process, but there are other hydrochloric acid products out there, and taking a little bit before each meal can make just a huge difference in how well you break down food and then how well you absorb nutrients from those foods.
I want to go further into hydrochloric acid because I call it the holy grail to digestion. And it really is, because if you have this robust release of hydrochloric acid, it mixes with your intrinsic factor, which helps. Those two have to mix together to absorb B vitamins. You can't do one or the other. So if you're not producing a lot of hydrochloric acid because you're stressed, because you eat a lot of refined grains, because you have a lot of inflammation, you're not absorbing your Bs, so you're not healing. Another thing hydrochloric acid does is it triggers other hormones like cholecystokinin and the other one, secretin. And what these two hormones do is they prep your liver and your gallbladder to produce bile and then to excrete it out. And so a lot of people have to have their gallbladder removed because they haven't been producing a lot of hydrochloric acid for years. And so they're not getting that contraction, that proper contraction. Think of like a stiff muscle. That's what your gallbladder does after years of not properly contracting. And so it either builds up bile, which turns into stones, or it gets really stiff and owy and inflamed, and then you have to cut it out, right? Another thing hydrochloric acid does is it triggers the pancreas to start releasing its pancreatic juices. So decreased hydrochloric acid means we're not pumping out bile properly, we're not pumping out gastric juices properly, we're not breaking down food. And so do that baking soda test, make sure you're producing enough hydrochloric acid, or you need a supplement until your body heals enough so you can produce your own hydrochloric acid. And then digestion should start moving really smoothly. I'm not kidding. Zypan's probably one of our most sold standard process products in our shop because everyone loves it. They're like, this is a game changer. Not for everyone though. Here's a disclaimer. If you have an ulcer, then taking hydrochloric acid is going to be like pouring acid on an open wound.
Even if it's not a full-on ulcer, if you've got really bad gastritis where there's just lots of inflammation, you'll know because even with a little bit of hydrochloric acid,
it's just going to burn.
It burns and it's really uncomfortable. And when we come across that, we have solutions for that too, which is first we start healing that lining, get things nice and strong, and then we can start adding in the hydrochloric acid.
Exactly.
We like to use things like licorice.
There's high pep. Something as simple as doing cabbage juice first thing in the morning. Juice some cabbages. I know that sounds disgusting. It is, but it actually tastes really good.
It's not.
I love it. I think it tastes good, but that has something called vitamin U in it, which is actually an enzyme and it's not a vitamin,
not really
but they called it vitamin U.
E, you said?
U.
Back in the day, before they figured out what a real vitamin was versus everything else, they had this vitamin U. But ultimately what it is an enzyme that is awesome for just restoring that gut lining.
And so drinking that first thing in the morning to help heal up your ulcers or your gastritis is really, really important.
Yeah, we'll have people do like 16 ounces of it on an empty stomach. And we've just seen some really great things with people that are suffering from those ulcers.
Beautiful.
Like
right. Yeah. So there's a lot of tools out there to help people heal up those ulcers, but hopefully you're not one of those people, whoever's listening. And so you can go just straight to the Zypan and, not everyone doses the same. So you'll have to play around with your dose. And do we have instructions online on how to dose Zypan? We can put it in the show notes. We'll put it in the show notes. We'll give it to Andrew.
Great. For sure.
But usually basically the idea is we have people start with a really low dose just in case they do have an ulcer or some other bad reaction to it. And then they just gradually increase until it's no longer helping. It's starting to be uncomfortable. And then you kind of drop down a little bit, and that's your ideal range. Yep. And it'll shift over time depending on how your body's healing and the foods you're eating, but it works really well. It's great.
Yeah, I wanted to, because again, we're going to the different things about the gut health, and it sounds like the hydrochloric acid is something we wouldn't think about, and testing it with the baking soda. And then are there any foods that I can eat that will stimulate hydrochloric acid either instantly or over time?
Not necessarily foods, but there are herbs. There is, if you guys have heard of bitters, have you heard of bitters before, Andrew?
Bitter herbs.
Bitter herbs.
Making drinks, I've heard of bitters.
Okay. Not like that.
Well, similar idea though. So there are lots of different bitter herbs like gentian root and ginger. And what they do is the bitterness of it makes you kind of pucker. And that puckering sensation is actually the start of a whole cascade of digestive processes that prepare your body to digest food more appropriately. If you think back in the day before we had modern food production processes, we had to make all of our food from scratch. and it would be an hour, 2 hour long kind of process. I mean, the Italians, they still do that, right? It's like an all day event. And in doing that, your body is getting all the smells and the sounds and the feel of the food. And it's saying, oh, there is food coming. You start producing saliva in your body. Goes, okay, here we go. We're going to do this. And then by the time you actually eat, you're good. Your body's all set for it. Nowadays, we're eating before we even realize that we want to eat. We see food, it's in our mouth, and then our body's going, whoa, where did that come from? What is that? So the bitters help us to kind of get back to that old process of preparing the body first.
There's a product out there it's the one that we really love by Many Herb, and it's called Digest Forte. And so what people can do is they can suck on that before they eat for about 5 to 10 minutes, ideally 15, but all of our clients hate us when we say 15. So I just say, give us whatever you can give us. And so they're like, it's 2 minutes. Okay. I'm like, that's fine. You know, but the longer they can suck on Digest Forte, the better, because like Tristin said, it just stimulates all of those gastric juices. You start salivating in your mouth, your gut starts to create hydrochloric acid. And it's really, there's a lot of healing herbs in there as well that just help heal leaky gut. And so it's a really great product. But, you know, adding more ginger to your food helps. One thing that I have heard from other people is celery juice. Some people say drinking celery juice, like 8 to 16 ounces in the morning, helps with their hydrochloric acid. I have actually never fully studied how that works, but I'll take it. You know, if that helps your digestion, amazing. Do you know why?
No.
I mean, it's loaded with minerals, but...
Right. What I would say too is be careful with the celery juice. It's not great for everybody, right? The oxalate content can be brutal for certain people, but it is something that can be worth trying in some cases.
Right.
I wanted to go into like the different foods. So let's say I'm building my gut. I want to eat foods for the gut.
Yes.
What are some like yummy foods? Some other food, like how do I build that up?
Yeah.
So bone broth.
We absolutely love bone broth.
Love it.
Rich in amino acids and minerals, and it is awesome for rebuilding the gut. We recommend it to virtually everyone we work with. Once again, we love people to make it themselves because it's relatively simple to do, especially in an Instant Pot.
And it tastes better. Yeah. Like trying to buy bone broth from the store is like, it's like putting a Skittle in water and calling it a soda, right? And it's like, no. Making your own bone broth, adding salt in there, adding some vegetables when you're simmering it, it just tastes so good. I wish I could make bone broth for every single person on the planet and show them how easy it is. But bone broth is really high in L-glutamine, and L-glutamine is the amino acid that helps to repair that epithelial lining, so that skin lining that lines your gut. Now, this is really important because, your skin, like your topical skin, it turns over every 30 days. Your gut lining turns over every 3 to 5 days. That's really fast. It requires a lot of energy. It requires a lot of nutrients. It requires a ton. So bone broth is one of those amino acids that can help heal and repair that.
L-glutamine.
L-glutamine in bone broth. Yeah. Yes. Other things too is making sure you're getting a good amount of protein, because you need all of those other amino acids to build and repair your tissues.
And your body will respond as you increase your protein intake. It will say, oh, we need more hydrochloric acid to break those down. So it starts to adjust itself accordingly.
Exactly.
Especially if you're also cutting down those refined carbohydrates.
Yeah, the refined, definitely cutting those out. And I'd like to add to the bone broth as well. From what I found, like if I'm eating a lot of meats, drinking bone broth with it helps balance the amino acids.
Yes.
Love that.
There's one called tryptophan, I believe, is the only one that's not in bone broth, gelatin. And I think that's actually an inflammatory amino acid. So if you guys make the bone broth, it's okay. The chicken noodle soup, the beef, or just have it on the side. I found the more gelatinous it is, the better. You can look on recipes. They Instant Pot, like super easy. You just throw in the bones and water, and there's a whole little process, but it's amazing. Okay, so bone broth. What else can, like during the holidays, can we create that will be supportive for our gut?
So generally speaking, and this goes right along with lots of veggies, but fiber. Now, there are varying opinions out there on fiber, but we happen to fall in the camp of people that think it's absolutely wonderful. Getting lots of fiber in helps that gut to just keep moving, keeps the stools nice and healthy. And will make you just a much happier person in the long run, especially during the holidays where we're getting so much dairy and gluten and sugar. That can just cause ourselves to get really blocked up, and then we feel miserable for weeks and weeks after. Mm-hmm. But making sure you're getting plenty of fiber in there can really ameliorate a lot of those negative effects.
Our ancestors ate, I think it was like over 65 grams of fiber per day. I think the recommended daily allowance is like 25.
The minimum?
The minimum. And the average American eats 13. And so we could really up our fiber game for sure. An easy way to do that is to create do green smoothies in the morning, where you're adding in a lot of like chia seeds and flax seeds, because those are the perfect fiber sources to directly feed the colonocytes, so the cells in your colon. And so they break down into some short chain fatty acids that feed those cells directly. So up your chia game and your ground flax game, because it's very, very, and I say ground flax on purpose because it's really, really, most of us don't even know how to digest vegetables. So trying to digest like whole flax seeds is going to be a little difficult.
You won't. They'll just go right through you.
They'll go straight through you.
Come out as seeds.
Mm-hmm. So pre-grind them and then throw them in your smoothie. Obviously add leafy greens in there, but if you are finding that you're feeling sick with your green smoothie, it could be because of the oxalate content. And so greens like spinach and chard, they are really high in oxalates. So you might want to go with like kale and like beet greens or dandelion greens, all the yucky ones, unfortunately.
For those who aren't familiar with oxalates, one of the problems they can cause in your system is they mess with your calcium distribution, which can lead to things like kidney stones and joint pain and all kinds of seemingly unrelated symptoms that show up. So if you notice that your body just feels really bad every time you get a high oxalate smoothie in, then that could be what's going on there.
Yep.
And that is kind of the theme of everything that we're talking about, is that we have these general recommendations, but people are individuals, which means that everybody is going to respond differently and need different things. And we just have to personalize what we're doing.
Yeah. You made a very valid point there. It's like, we're all very different individuals. We all come from different cultures. We've all had different diet choices or food choices up until this point. And so I always touch on, like, if we want to really improve in any area, let's ask somebody that's already done it.
Yes.
Let's hire a coach, let's work with a mentor. Let's shorten the time. We don't need to recreate the wheel. And, I mean, unless there's anything else that, we pretty much touched on a lot of different topics here, and your information is down below for everyone watching if you want to reach out. Is there any, another question or anything you want to go over before?
I want to mention one more thing. When you are making treats, try to make a lot of oatmeal cookies, because oats are really great fiber food as well. And there are so many good oatmeal cookies. So good, better, best, right? Don't use wheat, use oats and almond flour or something like that. And that can still taste so, so good, right? Add your chocolate chips, sweeten it with maple, and boom, there's a recipe that my kids and I make all the time. And it's only made with almond flour, and it's so good. And so go to Pinterest, right? Find some alternatives where it's using whole foods and you're rotating one thing for another. And so you're trying to get more high fiber foods that are less inflammatory. A list of inflammatory foods that I want to give, and these are the 6 top most inflammatory foods. It is, let me see if I can get this right: grains, dairy, corn, soy, peanuts, and I can't remember the other one. Sugar. So thank you. Yeah. And so those top ones being corn, grains, dairy, soy, those are really, really easy to rotate out for oats or almond flour. Peanuts, just rotate that for almonds, or if you're doing peanut butter cookies, do almond butter cookies. There's some modifications that you can make without destroying the joy in the food. And so that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. I think, we pretty much touched. Let me just look here at the other questions. Do we have to choose between enjoying holiday foods and having a healthy gut? And I think, again, that goes back to It's the holidays, you guys. So enjoy it. Don't get yourself beat up. Do as much as you possibly can.
Absolutely.
Talk to your family, maybe prepare your own meal and bring it. Enroll them. Life's an enrollment game. So enroll them why these cookies with the oatmeal is going to be so good. And everyone wants to try it. And there's gluten pills and all these other things, dairy pills to support us in digesting the dairy and the gluten. And then, before we close, I know you have an offer that you'd like to talk about with the audience so they can learn more about you. And
so I think we've actually changed it since we sent you in the information. What we'd like to offer is actually a holiday treats book that comes with a bonus of a holiday drinks book.
It's an ebook, so it's not a physical book.
Thank you for clarifying. This ebook, both of them are full of these really delicious recipes that are way healthier than some of the other options that people tend to run into during the holidays.
Especially those drinks. Those drinks are really yummy too.
They are. And the recipes, the cookies and the brownies and things, they're amazing. And nobody is ever disappointed with them.
Yeah.
Which means that you get all the benefits of the holiday treats without having the guilt and the regret that comes later typically, right?
Yep.
And that you can get that from gutsy.ch/holiday-treats.
So
beautiful.
We'll send that over to you.
And all the links, you guys, down below, go ahead and click them. You can reach out to both of these wonderful individuals. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to me as well. We can both be in this harmony to support you guys in really hitting your goals this year and really crushing next year.
Exactly.
So you two, thank you so much for hopping on here, supporting us with the gut health knowledge and wisdom.
Absolutely.
Pleasure, Andrew.
Yes. And everybody else watching, thanks again for hopping on. This is showing that you care about yourself. You're doing this for you. And that's the first step, is the awareness and taking that next step. And so however way we can support you, please reach out, do your part. Stay tuned. We got a lot of people sharing how to eat healthy, how to prepare healthy meals, how to get into the best shape of our life so we crush the rest of this year and hit 2021 hard. Exactly. So again, much love. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.